obviously he's a solid fighter. But for me, Tank Davis is in the elite class of boxing right now. He's just in the higher altitudes of the sport.
Renowned boxing analyst Teddy Atlas made a bold statement, ranking Gervonta Tank Davis among the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. According to Atlas, Tank's skill set is simply too much for Lamont Roach to handle, making him the clear favorite in their upcoming clash. However, Kamal Motone had a different perspective.
He's in the top 5 for me. When you talk about the top 5 best pound for pound right now, you're saying so. And for me, he's there not just because he's a puncher, because he's an all-round package. He can box.
Acknowledging Roach as a solid fighter stepping up to chase greatness. While Davis had other potential opponents, Roach was the one willing to take on the challenge. Motone believes the boxing world is underestimating Roach.
You don't catch you go to the body, go to the head, 2 punches together. His defense is responsible, he's patient, he's mentally together. As I said, he's a top guy.
Insisting that the fight could be far more competitive than many expect. Meanwhile, former champion Gary Russell Jr. sees the bout playing out in a familiar fashion. He expects Roach to have some early success, using his movement and boxing IHQ to stay competitive in the opening rounds. But as the fight progresses, Russell predicts Davis's physicality will take over.
Yeah, both of them is true. I feel like Lamont's definitely a solid opponent. He's moving up. I feel like Tank, he tried to fight Loma, and I don't really know what happened with Shakur, but I know Loma didn't want to take the fight.
Gradually breaking Roach down. In his eyes, Roach lacks the elite-level footwork and defensive skills needed to truly trouble Tank. While he noted Davis's tendency to start slow and give away early rounds, Russell remained unconvinced that Roach could capitalize in a meaningful way. Antonio Tarver, however, approached the fight from a broader perspective, emphasizing that Roach was the only realistic option left for Davis at this point.
I don't really know what happened with Shakur, just didn't fall through, so Lamont's a next solid opponent. He's moving up, he's chasing greatness, and Lamont's a very solid fighter. A lot of people are overlooking him, but it's definitely going to be a great.
With other top contenders sidelined or unavailable, the matchup made sense, especially from a cultural standpoint. Roach has a strong following in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, while Davis is already a global star. Tarver expects Tank to put on a show, but real question is whether Roach can rise to the occasion. Still, Tarver made it clear he doesn't see an upset coming. In his view, Davis is simply too complete, combining high-level boxing skills, a high fight IHQ.
I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said before, I think it's going to be interesting. Probably for maybe the first half of the fight. I think the first half of the fight is going to be a little interesting.
And an unmatched willingness to take risks. The real danger isn't just in Tank's power, it's in his mentality. He's willing to take a shot, but when he fires back, that's when things get dangerous. According to Tarver, Roach is facing an uphill battle, and if Tank is locked in, a brutal knockout could be inevitable. Former world champion Amir Khan didn't mince words either. He fully believes Davis steamrolls anyone in front of him.
I still think Tank is going to just be able to physically overwhelm Roach. You know what I'm saying? I think Roach is probably going to try to move out of box and stuff like that. But I think Tank is going to physically overwhelm him later on in the fight.
Khan sees no one in the division capable of stopping him, let alone Roach. He doubled down on his stance, calling Tank not just a great fighter, but a destructive force who bulldozes opponents. However, not everyone was sold on the fight itself. Blair Cobbs outright dismissed it as unworthy of pay-per-view status. While he gave Davis his due credit as an elite fighter, he questioned whether this matchup deserved fans' hard-earned money. According to Cobbs, boxing fans need to take a stand and refuse to pay for fights that don't excite them, arguing that Davis versus
Roach is flat-footed. He's flat-footed. He's slow on his feet. He's not the fastest guy on his hands. He doesn't have like hellified defense or anything like that.
Roach is just another fight, not a must-see event. On the other hand, Claressa Shields defended the matchup, reminding critics that Roach has a decorated amateur background and is far from an easy opponent. She acknowledged Tank's danger in the ring, calling him a bad man who can do it all, but she also insisted that Roach has the skills to make things interesting. Trainer Greg Hackett also weighed in, pointing out that Roach only landed this fight because other top names were unavailable. Shocker Stevenson and Edwin de los Santos are dealing with injuries, while other fighters have different plans.
What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get with these guys. When you're dealing with Tank, Tank, he gives away the first half of the.
But that doesn't mean Roach is a pushover. Hackett made it clear Roach is no walkover, and people shouldn't sleep on him. He even hinted at a deeper backstory, suggesting that Roach and Davis have a history that hasn't been fully explored. If that rivalry comes into play, Hackett believes the fight could be more competitive than most are expecting. At the same time, Hackett acknowledged the unique threat that Gervonta "Tank" Davis presents.
After further review, I think it probably was the only, with all the other guys,
no Loma,
with everything being considered. With everything being considered, it's probably the only guy that makes sense. He's a regional American guy that we.
He highlighted Tank's elite footwork and movement, which allow him to close the distance with precision, as well as his ability to set traps, making him unpredictable in the ring. While Roach is a strong and skilled fighter, Hackett believes Tank's combination of speed, power, and ring IHQ will present a serious challenge. Analyst Bay Salim also weighed in, reminding fans that Roach is still a world champion and cannot be overlooked. At the highest level, no fight is easy, and dismissing Roach outright would be a mistake. Salim also pointed out an overlooked factor: familiarity.
Really know who Roach is.
DMV guy.
The culture know who Roach is. We
Goes back with Tank.
Definitely know who Tank is. So this would be one of those fights that, Tank gonna be able to perform. Roach gonna have to be at his best, but Tank gonna perform.
Davis and Roach have known each other since their early boxing days, meaning there's no intimidation factor. That comfort in the ring could change the dynamic of the fight. While Salim ultimately favors Tank, he warned that Roach might make things more difficult than many expect. Dolwood Bay added another layer to the fight, noting that this is more than just another matchup, it's a DMV rivalry. With Roach representing Washington, D.C., and Tank coming out of Baltimore.
You see an upset in this fight. I don't see the Tank train being derailed no time soon. You feel me? The guy's just, like I said, complete fighter, can do it all, box, got a high IQ, and he's a gambler in there. He take risks in the ring like nobody else.
There's a built-in history that raises the stakes. Bay, who has ties to Roach's camp, emphasized that neither fighter will back down. No one is coming to lay down. This is going to be a real fight, he said. He fully expects an intense battle, whether it ends early or goes the distance. For Bay, this fight isn't just about belts or rankings, it's about pride. Meanwhile, boxing analyst Johnny Ortiz addressed the ongoing criticism that Tank is cherry-picking opponents.
You get your shot off, but then he gonna get his off. And that's when shit get crazy. You feel me? When he start landing his. So, yeah, I can't wait for that fight, man. I hope Roach comes with his best game plan. And that's what these fighters are supposed to do.
He argued that big names don't always make the best fights sometimes. Skill matters more than popularity. Roach may not be the most well-known fighter, but Ortiz reminded fans that he is a world champion at 130 pounds and a legitimate contender. He dismissed claims that Davis is avoiding tough competition, stating that as the biggest name in American boxing today, Tank's every opponent will be scrutinized. In Ortiz's view,
Tank is a big mountain to climb, man. When he's on his game, he's hard to beat, if not impossible to beat.
Roach is a deserving challenger, and this fight isn't as simple as critics suggest. However, Ortiz wasn't convinced that Roach has the tools to truly trouble Tank. While he credited Roach as a well-rounded boxer, he questioned whether he has anything to make Tank respect him. Without knockout power or a unique skill set to force caution,
There's no beating him. The guy's a good boxer. Yeah, the way he's been fighting, honestly, is Yeah, I mean, whoever they put in front of me just.
Ortiz sees a clear outcome, Tank walking through Roach and stopping him in the mid-rounds. Roach can box, but against someone like Tank, that won't be enough, Ortiz stated. If he can't hurt Tank, he won't survive for long.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
Is it pay-per-view? Is it pay-per-view worthy?
Nah, not really. Not really pay-per-view worthy, but it's another fight for boxing.
Even Davis's own trainer, Calvin Ford, acknowledged that this fight could be more competitive than expected. He pointed out that Tank and Roach's history adds a different dynamic to the matchup. When two fighters are familiar with each other's styles, it can lead to unpredictable moments in the ring.
Gervonta Davis, truly incredible fighter. But I don't think. I think if this is something that fighters that
Ford hinted that Roach may have insights on Tank that other opponents lacked, potentially making him a trickier challenge. However, despite the familiarity, Ford remains confident that Tank's explosiveness, skill set, and high fight IQ will ultimately secure him another victory.
that the fans need to fight for. We need to start retaliating with our dollars, and that means not paying for a Gervonta Davis, Lamont.
Rising contender Haven Brady Jr. analyzed the fight from a different perspective, its impact on the 130-pound division. With Roach moving up in weight, his super featherweight title is now vacant, opening doors for fighters like Brady. While he admitted he didn't expect Roach to take such a high-risk fight, he acknowledged Roach's solid boxing skills.
He's a very pretty kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank. And when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's bad man. He can fight and stuff.
However, like many others, Brady envisions the fight playing out the way most of Tank's matchups do, with Davis systematically breaking Roach down and stopping him in the mid to late rounds.
I mean, he's the opponent right now. You know what I mean? Because circumstances with other fighters, I think Shakur injured, De Los Santos injured, and other guys, I think, just got other plans. You know what I mean? To boil it all up.
Brady also highlighted a critical factor that has led to the downfall of many of Tank's past opponents' fear. He explained that Davis has an uncanny ability to sense hesitation and weakness in the ring. Once he does, it's only a matter of time before he closes the show.
Roach is a sturdy opponent, though. Roach is no slouch. You know what I mean? You can't sleep on Roach. I know that. I know they also got history. I know, you know what I mean? There's also things they haven't talked about that they do know about each other. You know what I mean? So I think we in for a good fight for that.
Brady pointed to past fights, including Tank's clash with Frank Martin, where Davis's demeanor shifted the moment he knew he had his opponent broken. If Roach enters the ring without complete confidence, Brady believes the fight will end quickly. However, if Roach refuses to be intimidated and fights with conviction, he could at least make it a difficult night for Tank. Former world champion Caleb Plant weighed in, viewing this as an exciting matchup for the East Coast boxing scene. Having grown up competing alongside Roach in the amateur circuit, Plant respects his skills and believes he will bring a competitive edge to the fight. While many are quick to dismiss Roach's chances,
As far as his ability, Roach is a good inside fighter. You know what I mean? He got the good jab. He got the good basics. You know what I mean? Strong kid. Not the hardest puncher, but he will hurt you. And, he doesn't have a flashy style. You know what I mean? He more so just getting in where he can find it. You know what I mean? Getting in where he can find it. Trying to score shots. You know what I mean? If he can get the knockout, he will.
Plant knows firsthand that he is a technically sound fighter who won't back down easily. He expects an exciting battle and believes Roach will perform better than expected. However, even with that respect, Plant understands the challenge ahead. Davis remains the heavy favorite, and overcoming him will be no easy task. Renowned trainer Bozy Ennis shared a similar sentiment, acknowledging Roach's toughness but ultimately leaning towards Davis. He pointed out that Tank's explosiveness, ring IQ, and mid-fight adjustments will be the deciding factors. Ennis expects Roach to put up a fight, but at the end of the day, he sees Tank as the superior boxer who will find a way to win.
Explosive, crafty, fast, good footwork, predator, so on and so forth. So It should be a good.
He also broke down what it takes to survive against Davis, emphasizing that trading punches with him is a recipe for disaster. Fighters need to box smart, move constantly, and tie him up when necessary. Ennis explained that frustrating Tank by making him miss and forcing him to drop his guard is key. However, the real challenge is that Davis sets traps that most opponents don't see coming. Even if a fighter appears to be outboxing him early, if they don't have the power to keep him cautious, they're in trouble. Ennis warned that if Roach can't hurt Davis, it's only a matter of time before he gets caught, and when that happens, a knockout is inevitable. Conor Benn took a completely different stance.
Especially not at the top level. Everybody knows how to fight. And Tank and Lamont Roach have been acquainted with each other since they were young fighters. And, just coming up in the game and knowing each other, the comfortability, that's still something that can threaten one another. But I feel like Tank will come out on top at the end of the day. But Lamont might give people, a tougher fight.
Calling out Tank Davis for avoiding tougher opponents. While some have debated Roach's credibility as a challenger, Ben dismissed the fight altogether, questioning why Davis isn't facing names like Shocker Stevenson. He suggested that Tank is avoiding real challenges while still maintaining his superstar status. Ben didn't hold back, criticizing the way Davis's team promotes fights, accusing them of hyping up matchups while avoiding serious threats, all while cashing in on easier opponents. To Ben, this fight isn't about legacy or competition.
I think if you understand the history of DC and Baltimore, and then I'm familiar with Roach and them camp a little bit because I'm cool with people that's tight with them and stuff like that, so we all kind of encounter each other.
It's about carefully managing risk while selling fans a narrative that doesn't match reality. Mario Barrios took a more neutral stance, defending Davis against criticism. He acknowledged the realities of boxing, stating that no matter who Tank fights, fans will always have opinions. Some will approve, while others will discredit the matchup. Barrios compared Davis to Canelo Alvarez, arguing that Tank has reached a level where he controls his own career and can select his opponents without having to prove himself to anyone. He believes Davis has already accomplished enough to move in any direction he chooses. While some may question whether Roach is a worthy challenger, Barrios sees it differently. As long as the fight delivers excitement, it remains a valid matchup.
Right? I wouldn't see none of them coming and laying down and then Tank his Tank. I think you're going to get a DMV classic. Like, you're going to get a good fight. They're going to fight each other.
The showdown between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach presents an intriguing dynamic, but at its core, many see it as another routine victory for Davis. He enters as the overwhelming favorite, boasting elite power, a high ring IQ, and a proven ability to dismantle opponents once he finds his rhythm. Roach, on the other hand, is a disciplined and technically sound boxer, but he lacks the explosiveness and finishing ability that could truly trouble a fighter of Tank's caliber. Some argue that Roach's familiarity with Davis and his solid boxing skills could allow him to survive longer than expected, but the general consensus remains that Tank's firepower will be too much.
You know what I'm saying? So for however long it lasts, or for however long the fireworks is, going off, he gonna fight him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's gonna come out there to lay down.
Unless Roach can execute a near-perfect strategy to frustrate Davis and keep him off balance, it's hard to see an outcome where Davis doesn't secure another knockout victory. This fight will ultimately determine whether Roach can make it competitive or if it will be another highlight reel finish for one of boxing's biggest stars. Is this matchup more competitive than people expect, or will Tank dominate from start to finish? Does Roach have the skills and durability to go the distance, or is he destined to be another victim of Davis's brutal knockout power? Should Tank be facing bigger names instead? And if so, who would be a better opponent? And if Roach pulls off an upset, how would that shake up the division? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more boxing updates.